Hi guys, and welcome to our first ever RadCast Rambles video recording. Hopefully the first of many of this new format we're trialling.
Yeah, after 6 years of using the same podcast style, we decided that we'd switch things up a bit, try a new format and a new medium as well. So here we are. We plan on using this as a space to keep kind of in touch with our podcast listeners, chatting about topical issues in radiology and then our own experiences of working in the specialty. But we'll see how things develop and what our viewers enjoy the most.
Yeah, so seeing as this is kind of a new beginning, I think it's worth us reintroducing ourselves because who knows, we might even have some new viewers who haven't actually listened to the podcast. So I guess, Mohammed, seeing as you're crawling out of the woodwork, you can do the honours.
Yeah, it's really surreal to be here, right? And this is not our first attempt at doing this, right? This is like our 17th attempt at recording, so you guys better appreciate.
We seem jaded. That's why.
Yeah, well, there's a reason. If you see Jamie depressed, there's a reason, okay? But it's very cool to be on the podcast after, as Jamie said, 6 years. I feel like a guest, but I'm not a guest. Hopefully, I will remain on the podcast, but we'll see after this episode. So my name's Mohammed. I'm one of the third co-founders of RadCast, the silent co-founder, if you say. But from those that have been on our application course or like our anatomy competitions, you'll know that I'm there in terms of the modules and videos. But we thought, you know what, since we're freshening up how we reach out to you all, why not have all three of us on the podcast and get to know one another better?
Yeah, nice. So, so I guess a good place to start on this one, I think we were going to sort of go back through the RadCast story, sort of origin, and just give people a reminder of sort of why we started this, maybe remind ourselves. So, do you want to tell people the story, Mohammed?
Yeah, so it started like, those Harry Potter-esque stories, Lord of the Rings, but it's more, once upon a time in a land far, far away. But it's more one of those cases where it was very, like, fortunistic, like it was very opportunistic as well. Yes, that's the word. That's beyond my vocabulary, but that is the word. And I think, if I remember correctly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I met you, Uzi, when I was applying for radiology, and I think we were working on a project together, and obviously you helped me. Yeah, well, we did win a prize, but when you were helping my application, obviously I got in. Great, because obviously the competition ratio is going sky high now. But then I remember we having a chat, and I think you were just kind of like talking about your options, because you were, I think at the time, an ST2 going into ST3.
Yeah, I was probably ST2. And we're working on this project, and I think because I was helping you with your application, I saw you had like lots of stuff on your CV. You're clearly someone who has had this finger in many pies, and I was sort of maybe doing some soul searching, thinking what else I could do to bolster the CV as is the standard medic way. And it was also during the time when AI was gaining prominence. So I actually had in retrospect, awful idea of maybe doing a PhD in AI. And I called you up on a weekend and asked you what you thought about it. And you gave me some very good advice, actually.
I think I blocked you.
No. Honestly, like maybe one of the best bits of advice that I've had, because it's something I've used since then to avoid doing really pointless stuff. But you said medics have this habit of doing stuff because of optics, basically because it looks good. But then you have to think, why are you actually doing this, and what's the opportunity cost of doing it? And so you basically talked me off the ledge of perhaps trying to do a PhD in AI, even though I have no computer science background or
Becoming
anything.
a full-on academic.
It's that classic thing.
The sliding doors moment of
exactly.
ST2.
Yeah, it's that classic thing, like as medics, especially now with what's going on in the NHS, medics have like started to branch out, and because we like to have comfort blankets, the two main routes are academia or teaching. So it's your natural kind of like career path. Oh, I want to do something beyond clinical. I'll be an academic or I'll be an educator. And I remember just thinking at the time, because obviously podcasts were in vogue. They still are, but it was really like hot stuff at that time. And I remember from my application, obviously not all three of us never went into medicine to do radiology. Like Jamie, I remember you said you had a plastics background. Uzi, you were thinking of anesthetics. I was thinking of endocrine. But we didn't really hear about radiology until our foundation years, or maybe a bit more senior. So I thought, you know what? Why is it that when people get clued up on radiology, they really want to do it, but we never really understand what's going on in the world of radiology? So let's just put a mic to these really cool people doing really cool things and hear what they're up to. And that's where RadCast came.
You basically used you saw that it was a moment of weakness, and you used that opportunity to basically give me this idea which you'd been thinking about doing, but were too scared to embarrass yourself. And you thought, okay, this guy's gullible enough. Yeah, he's gonna. Let's see if he'll like see whether he's willing to embarrass himself with this. And so you told me
6 years later, we're still embarrassing ourselves. Let's keep going.
But yeah,
and amongst all that as well, Uzi and I had done a project on AI and kind of like perceptions of AI amongst our cohort, amongst registrars. So it was, we had responses from all over the country, but the one thing that came from that was that people really wanted engagement. So I think that was another thing to kind of push towards doing the podcast. It was like, well, in theory, it sounds like a good idea. And then on the other side of it, there is a potential audience here as well. Like people would probably be receptive to it. If it's just you with an idea, then you don't really know if it's the right thing to do or not. But then if you've got someone else that kind of validates it, then
it's like going to your mum saying, would you buy this, mum? And of course she's going to say yes. She doesn't want to upset you. But if you say to someone that has no like investment towards you, like, is this a good idea? And they go, no, that's a load of crap. Then you kind of back down. But I remember at the time, I think the main hesitancy at that time was, number one, how the hell do we do this? And number two, what do we do? And I think we were kind of building as we went along. And definitely as we transitioned to video for this episode, we were definitely learning as we went along.
Yeah, I think that we past tense as if it's like mission accomplished. Yeah, we'll see. No, definitely. I think certainly it is good that Jamie said yes. I think if he'd said no, it probably would have sort of derailed it at that early stage. But once you have another person who thinks it's a good idea, then we basically thought, might as well give it a try. Did the first few episodes with people within our network, like JC was the first one, and then Dr. Chawla, Samita, and then started branching out. And I think like by the end, we probably could have approached most people in the radiology or tech or sort of wider related space, and they at least would have responded to our email, politely declined an interview, or most people are actually quite keen to do interviews. People are looking for an opportunity to share some of the good work they're doing, and I think we gave people that platform, which probably wasn't there before. So, yeah.
I think we only had one rejection.
Who was that?
Yeah, I can think of one. It was the Spotify guy who's branching into
the whole body MRI.
Oh, whole body MRI. Yeah, that's the one.
That's never going to take off anyway. So
and also Prometheus, who just never acknowledged us. But if you're still out there, Prometheus, please, we would love to host you.
Yeah,
everyone else said yes.
Yeah,
we've turned some people down as well.
So then, we got to kind of. We what was it, 6 years, built up a good sort of name for ourselves and fan base, and then decided to let it all go. And
Uzi said done.
Yeah.
Go into the sunset.
What do you guys think of that decision to end the podcast? Foolish?
I think my opinion, because I wasn't obviously there wasn't all three of us at that time. It's quite my perspective. I think it's quite interesting in the sense I was able to appreciate, number one, the podcast for the podcast, and two, also I got the back end. I could see the editing, the amount of prep in the script, and it's tough. The amount of hours both of you were putting in, Uzi from the editing, Jamie from the script, finding the podcast. Like most of the audience won't appreciate that we had to plan months in advance. Like to have a monthly schedule
I know,
takes
it's tough.
months of advance of planning and coordinating with people who aren't even in the country. Like it's tough, and then making sure their recording software is appropriate and like sufficient. Then the editing, it just really meant that at like times of the month, one of us was just not like available because of the time input required.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, it's definitely a weird feeling having stopped it. I think especially in the first month after we stopped it, like the first Friday of a month for 6 years, give or take, not releasing an episode, that was a bit
Liberating?
weird. Yeah, I would definitely now. I mean, I think about it, even over the last few weeks, it just seems like I've got so many other things on my plate, both at work and also with RadCast. And I just think, God, how would I fit it in a podcast on top of this? It would literally have been impossible. I don't know if I've just suddenly got a lot busier. I've just replaced podcast stuff with other stuff, but it just would have been impossible to be planning and editing a podcast over these last few weeks. So yeah, it's definitely confirmed to me that whether it was the right decision or not, it was unsustainable to continue doing it with everything else. So, and that's why something's got to give. So yeah. So yeah, I think overall it's definitely a right decision. But it's definitely sort of weird because it was the central anchor of RadCast for so long. And who knows how crucial it was to actually the success of the brand. We'll find out essentially, like we're pivoting into this new thing, but is there going to be an appetite for it? Who knows? It's it's a massive unknown. And we've sort of gone from being like a big fish in a small pond to, if we do videos and stuff, then like being very, very small fish, if fish at all, made prawns.
Plankton.
Yeah, plankton. So
yeah, I think we'd done the same thing every month, hadn't we? Like, I mean, obviously there was the odd one where it was just Uzi and I, but predominantly it was the same format of get a guest on, ask them about their insights into whatever their special interest was, or their profession, and obviously it's very interesting, but like it did become a bit formulaic. So I think that it's good to be able to switch things up. It's good to have kind of like a new challenge as well. And yeah, definitely with the editing of the video, Uzi will not be doing that. I think that's something is an absolute no. The editing.
I'm just not going to watch it again, and if I don't watch it and I don't know how bad it looks, then that's fine.
Yeah.
Outside,
we're using that to exploit him. We're saying you'll never watch it again, so don't worry. Don't worry what it looks like. It'll look like 180p rendered video just on YouTube. No, but I think I remember when we started, we had like a list of like all the people we wanted on the podcast. We had, and I think the big one, the one that really made me go, "Wow, damn!" Like this is amazing. Was the Radiopedia one? Like that was, even though for me as a listener, that was awesome. So I think when we ticked off majority of the people, like I said, if you're listening Prometheus, you're still on that list. But don't just ignore us. Yeah, but
I mean that
was more of a case that it was you've done it.
Yeah, that sort of episode also reiterates the point, because you won't know, but there were so many technical issues during that recording. I mean, you got the logistical stuff of trying to arrange the time between here and Australia, but then there are all sorts of issues with lag and so that was a nightmare. We got it over the line and it sounds fine. You won't know from listening to it, but that was a difficult one to do. So those things kind of take their toll. Like you line up, you finally get the biggest episode that the biggest interview you've been working towards, and then it's just like a bit of a disaster technically. But yeah, because of my skills of editing, people have no idea. But yeah, but it's also, I mean, I think they also appreciated that, because
that was huge.
after we released our last episode, Radiopedia released they re-released the episode that we did with Frank on their podcast. I'm going to say almost as a tribute to RadCast, and they said some nice things at the start of the of the video when they were just chatting between themselves, talking about sort of just some complimentary words about RadCast, and also mentioning how they sort of appreciate the difficulty of juggling all of these commitments. So that was good. That was a nice touch.
It is nice. It is nice to get like feedback. Like, I don't think we ever like ask for like reviews and like leave a comment or whatever. Which obviously now we're going to do loads, and we're going to plug and subscribe, as they say. Hit the notification bell.
If you don't say that.
Yeah, But it was like really rewarding to hear that, people saying thank you for all the episodes. Even like people coming to our courses, they're like, "Oh, we heard you, and you kind of like sparked my interest in radiology through your podcasts. Now I want to apply." Etc., etc. And then some of those individuals now becoming our colleagues within the region, which is really cool. Like a path to see, where they come on the application course, we sometimes interview them, and then now they're like your colleague in the region, which that to me is like pretty cool.
Yeah, that happens to me.
That's just how long we've been doing it as well.
I know, absolutely.
See people through applications.
But yeah, now so sort of now pivoting to video and these new. So what's your grand plan for these? How are we going to have like a regular schedule like the podcast, or it's just going to be ad hoc?
We are not promising anything, right? We are going to wing this to the best of our ability till we see what sticks. And like I said, we value honesty with our audience, and that's just us be brutally honest. Like I said, this is our 17th take at this, all right? So it's not streamlined just yet. But I think the real reason like we wanted to do this is, unbeknown to us, we were building a YouTube channel just passive, like in the ultimate sense of the word, passive as it was, like true passiveness. And I remember I kept like repeatedly like messaging the guys, we got 1,000 subs. Oh, it's 2,000 now. It's 3,000 now. It's 4,000, and we were just so confused as to why. Like, what are there's not even a schedule of videos being uploaded there. It's just there's a chest X-ray video for some reason. People seem to like and like send blessings and praise to us, and then there's like a constellation of videos from Jamie on his MSK stuff, Uzi's head and neck stuff, and then a like MSRA video that we did with one of our candidates who like smashed the MSRA. But we thought, you know what? If it's growing at a rate that makes no sense to us, why don't we kind of take the content that we have, which is these podcasts, put a video element on them so they're kind of relevant for YouTube, and see what happens. Like, that's kind of what we're thinking of with the YouTube side of things. Because if it's of interest, then why not? Why not share the content across multiple platforms?
Yeah, there's definitely a massive appetite for radiology content. I mean, from my perspective, I think it was certainly the podcast. We just reached that stage where we needed to try something new, and YouTube is a convenient sort of alternative medium to try. It definitely was a case of, okay, I'm going to stop the podcast, and may as well try YouTube, rather than stopping the podcast because there was always an intention to try YouTube. Like the podcast was in and of itself something that we sort of really valued doing, and it was the sole way that we communicated with our audience for a long time. So it's not really to undermine that per se, but I think it is important, as we said on our last episode, to maintain some sort of public face. Yeah, exactly. So I think YouTube just seems like a sensible thing to pivot to, and maybe have higher impact overall, even if you're releasing episodes. Because so I mean, let's be honest. Even though we've done the podcast for 6 years and we built up a very solid sort of name and stuff, I mean, a good podcast, you might get 1,000 listens in a month, like on a really good one. And even a bad YouTube video, you probably, I mean, if you get 1,000 listens to a YouTube video, that's like really bad, isn't it? So I'd say the potential audience is much greater. And so there is that in terms of just reach for the input that you're putting in, that you can't really compare it.
We'll use clickbait titles like how I made $1 billion as a teleradiologist in Dubai.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Viral content for sure. Yeah,
I think it's the type of content as well, though, isn't it? It's the like, you know, what we were doing was very interesting to people who would understand it, whereas like this is a bit more general, I suppose. So maybe there's a potential wider audience. It's not going to be too technical.
Another interesting or taboo concept to talk about is monetization. I'll say the dirty word, because on the podcast, so we never monetize it, never had ads, and certainly initially it wasn't an option, but towards the end, I suppose it was just almost a stubborn point, as we didn't want to sully the good name of the podcast with ads. But I think ultimately anyone who does something like this, produces content, is putting out material over a long period of time, you realise that if there is no sort of, I don't know, sort of financial gain, if you're not earning anything from it, then essentially it is 10 hours of unpaid work a month. And even with the most altruistic sort of mindset, that over time that does sort of, your motivation does sort of sap, and it's never been something that we wanted to actively pursue. But videos or YouTube videos do sort of give you the option to do it passively, as it were. So I think that's also a benefit of YouTube videos over podcasts.
Yeah, I think it's like, obviously this is like a labor of love. Like we don't need to be doing this, if we're honest. But the thing is, like, one things that I've always never like gravitated to is things that come and then go. Like, I think one of the key things about us when we started was longevity, because you can't get to know anyone or like an audience if you're there for a few months, and then because there's no like return of investment, you kind of give up. And this is very problematic. I remember when we started, we were all like, you two are Regis. Now that you're consultants, you do the maths in your head. You're like, okay, 10 hours of unpaid editing, what could I be doing? And if that's just sleeping, you're still like, I'd rather be in bed than just editing this podcast, trying to get rid of these ums and ahs. I'd rather sleep, or I just go outside and like enjoy the sun. So I think, obviously, as you said, hit the nail on the head, monetization. We're not going for like Ali Abdal levels. We're going to start making creator courses on how we got X amount of views. Well, we could, but not right now. But never say never.
We'll just be doing these courses instead.
But it's more of a case that like when there is some return, for example, just upgrading the software we use to record, that costs. And like I just gave away $30 like 10 minutes ago to something that just didn't work. So that's how it works. And I think with the YouTube, we have reached that monetization threshold for the ads. So let's see. But I think the other thing is the audiences. Like, this is more laid back. It's not really, we do have some form of a script, but it's not like set. It's not set in stone. So whether that captures a new audience or revitalizes our existing audience, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what people like. But yeah, no, I think longevity and consistency is important. We did that with the podcast, but in order to maintain that for an even longer period of time, you do need to have some sort of return. It's interesting that when we released our final episode, people thought that we were ending RadCast altogether. Which is why I've been really keen to get this video out even after the 17th time of trying, just to show that RadCast is not dead. We've actually had some interesting phone calls from people, whether they knew, but discussing the option of maybe buying some of RadCast's offerings, seeing as we're no longer in operation. So obviously with this video, you'll see that we are still going strong. So
add another zero. Add another zero.
I'm a talk. Yeah.
It's just a pivot. It's not. We're not gone forever. Like I don't think we even gave that impression across on the podcast. Maybe we did. I don't know.
No, you could sense the excitement. No, not from you, Jamie. When I was listening, I was like, okay, Jamie is kind of like on tone, but Uzi was so ecstatic. It was like, yes, the baton hasn't been passed. Uzi threw the baton into the sea. He's like,
I don't care if there's anyone there to grab it. It's gone.
This is fun.
No, I'm glad we got this because we said we'd do videos and it's easy to say it, but if we get this one out, it's good. It does show that we are committed to continuing. So yeah, all good. Yeah.
So Mohammed, you're out from behind the camera now. What?
Finally, Dobby's a free elf. Yes.
What's going to be your angle? What are you gonna add?
Wit, lots of wit, humor, bants, as Uzi says. I don't know. What I think. In terms of angle, I think it's more of a case of hopefully behind the scenes type of stuff, like the courses, what we're doing operationally, trying to give like an insight into, okay, RadCast is this. You've heard our voices. Now, hopefully you see our faces, but like what is going on behind the scenes, like whether it's crack, the application course, not something else, whether it's our application courses, whether it's our anatomy competition. It's more of a case of like trying to give you that behind the scenes and obviously make sure you two are in check. And don't
to be fair, you have, I think a lot of our application course people will probably know you more than myself and Jamie, and you've gained quite a lot of popularity from your newsletters, actually. Your creative writing. So you've already been
flair for creative writing.
Yeah. Don't we have a sort of blog or something that you started one of your many?
So the thing with the blog was we were going to do it. We did one. But then the problem is, as you said, when you have so many spinning plates, eventually something will smash. And it's when you take your eye off the ball of like a course, and then people start to email, rightly so, saying, okay, what's going on? What's this? And then because a lot of our things aren't complete and leave, it's kind of, you have to update. You kind of have to make sure it's still relevant. You just can't commit to the blogs. And the thing I didn't want to do with the blogs is make one and then leave it, because everyone's like, what the hell is this? A load of crap. Whereas with the newsletters, the thing with the newsletters, which I enjoy, is when I write them, like collectively for all of us, is it's very timely in the sense that something has happened for us to reach out to you. So it's kind of relevant. And number two, it gives us an opportunity to reach out and just say hello. And obviously I can then use all my lame jokes in there as well.
Yeah. No,
you're smiling, yeah? It's video, right? You can see you smiling, so yeah.
So a hint of
they're very good.
The gifts are great.
Yeah.
The additional gifts, I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, look at the website now, boys. It's going up. It's gone up a notch from static image gifts. Before you know it.
Gifts.
Before
Are
you
you paying
know
for
it.
the gift set, or is it still royalty free?
It's royalty free. Please don't review our gifts. I don't want to have any.
It's a principle. No paid gifts at RadCast. That's okay. Yeah, so I suppose talking about some of the courses, I think we may as well use this opportunity to reflect on the last application cycle, because that's sort of dying down now, and it was very eventful. So yeah, you were very sort of deep in the weeds on that, Mohammed. So what's your reflection on that?
I think, okay, from a reflection of a candidate perspective and from our perspective, I think from a candidate perspective, the first thing I'll say is, if you have one iota of thinking of pursuing radiology as a career, please just apply. Like, genuinely. Don't think about it. Don't and ah. This November, on Oriole, apply. Because honestly, the application competitiveness is getting ridiculous now. If we were to draw a curve, it's literally hit a parabolic, and it's just
Looks like NVIDIA.
It's not. Yes, the stonks are going up, but it's
like
yeah, it's short games, but it's a case of try, because literally the only barrier to you getting to an interview is MSRA, and that's in your control how much revision or how little revision you want to do. Because of the way the weightage shifted from like a nice third to now 50% interview, it's kind of in your favor to get in. And honestly, once you're on the other side with a training number, it's like a weight is off your shoulders. So please do apply, because looking at our crystal ball, it's going to get more and more competitive.
What was the competition ratio this year?
Oh, the numbers haven't been released for the 2023-2024 application cycle, but it's going up. That's all you need to know. It doesn't matter what the number is. It's going up.
It's at least 10 to 1.
Yeah, pre-MSRA, exactly.
Yeah.
And more specialties, like I think core surgical training has thrown its hat into the MSRA ring. Because of that, people are more likely to be like, well, if I'm going to sit the MSRA for something else, why not go for radiology? Like, it's no skin off my back. So I think it's a case of, listen, if you have a inkling, go do a taste a week, make sure you know what you're getting yourself in store for, but then have a go, because you never know, you could get in, and then that's a huge shackle off your feet. From our perspective as an organization, man, it was tough having to adjust, because typically what we kind of do is prepare in advance, we update our content where relevant, and then we get trickles of candidates who start really early using our application course and other stuff. We reach out to them. Then we get that whole influx in November where everyone's like, okay, I'm applying, etc., etc. Then when they get shortlisted around February time, we get a huge influx of people wanting interviews. And we this year had to expand our interview pool. We'll probably do that again. That was a huge logistical learning point for us. And then when the interviews changed, dear oh dear, like my oh my. Shout out to the RCR.
They gave a very loose structure of what the interviews would be like in the months before, and because the format had been pretty much the same for the preceding 3 or 4 years, we kind of thought we almost tried to retrofit the new structure like onto the old one, and basically just rearrange sort of the structure of the questions, but we thought they'd be pretty much the same. And then they just threw a massive curveball in about a week before the actual interviews, which I don't know if they do that deliberately to cause confusion or what, but it certainly wasn't easy to sort of deal with. And there were a lot of candidates, the bulk of candidates who had done practice with us in the 2 months or so before, and it had been practicing using the old format, and then the RCR released it to be completely different. And so those candidates, I wouldn't blame them for being a bit annoyed, having spent all that time and money practicing stuff that wasn't going to come up. And then certainly we had to sort of adapt and adapt to the new format, which was much more like the old style that myself and Jamie did with prioritization and clinical radiology scenarios and stuff, which I think is actually a much better way of assessing candidates than just asking them the same 4 questions year on year that everyone prepares for, like throwing a few curveballs. Because we find that candidates, they'll ask you such specific questions about the interview and the application. They want to know everything that's going to come up and be able to prepare for everything in advance. And I don't think that's necessarily it's not really a good application process if you can prepare for everything. So the fact there is that variability now, I definitely think is a better thing. It's just the way they sort of sprung it on everyone at the last minute. I'm not sure that's absolutely necessary. It's already stressful enough.
I think it's kind of done to combat the prep.
Yeah.
I think what the assessors really want to see, and it's something that we discussed. I remember Jamie bringing this up, is that they want to see spontaneity. They want to see how you
Real
think
people.
on the spot.
Yeah.
They want to see, okay, faced with this unknown thing that you don't know anything about, what do you do? Do you just like deer in headlights, or do you kind of try and figure out? It's kind of those, like, those weird Oxford University questions that they get. Oh, what is the meaning of life? There's no real right answers. Like, what is your process and logic?
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, kudos to the interview panel this year for the changes. Compared to previous years, like, I thought they were really good. I thought it was a very radiology relevant application process.
Definitely.
Like, I have very polarizing views about the MSRA, and I think we all agree what those are. I think it has no place in a radiology application process.
Strong words.
It doesn't, because it's. I don't know. Has anyone done a study to look at correlation of MSRA performance with Part 1, Part 2A, Part 2B? But it's kind of done for logistics, in the sense that we can't get 4,000 applicants to the number that we interview, like 800, 900. We have to have something as a stepping stone. But the interview format itself, I thought, you know what? I think you'll get very good candidates.
Without the robots, for sure. People who can't think on their feet. Absolutely.
I think you always come across those people when we do the interview sessions, the one-to-ones. You have the people who are kind of like, right, I've got a list of questions here, and I'm going to come up with an answer for all of them, and I'm going to learn it word for word. So it's going to be like a scripted thing.
And I'm going to give
and
this
then you
answer
ask them
even
something
when
that
the
isn't on
questions
that
are
script, and they just like freak out completely. And then there's the people who, you teach them to kind of think about the type of question that they're being asked, and then what structure to use for that, and then they're the ones who can handle the pressure of an interview, because they're practicing by thinking on their feet.
Exactly. No, we always get it. We get it in the sense that it's spot on what Jamie said, because we always debrief on, like, how can we help the candidates, and we always tell the candidates, listen, if you've gone and learned paragraphs, and I ask you not why do you want to be a radiologist, but ask you what interested you, and you go into like Windows reboot mode, I've asked the same question just in a different way. So you've got to be able to realize, wait a minute, that's the same question, but in a different way, and just kind of adapt and like think on the spot. And I think in my one-to-ones, I always say, listen, if I ask you a question that you don't know, I'm not going to stop. You just think, and I will just sit here in blank silence until you either figure it out or you kind of just crumble. But this can happen in your real interview, so figure it out now. And it was really good getting on.
Tough love that they come for.
And it was really good getting on the additional interviewers this year in our pool. Like, shout out to them. Thank you so much for your help this year. We'll extend our pool this year, but it was great learning from them. They had like feedback saying, "Okay, guys, I've noticed this. Could we change that? How about this?" And all this kind of stuff. So it was really good. Like I think this was our most hectic application cycle from my perspective, anyway.
Yeah, I mean, getting those extra interviewers to do interviews for us was also, it's a good sort of it's a good exercise in like scaling, and the fact that we could do that and cater a bit better to the increased demand, although there was still lots of people who couldn't actually get any interview practice across. That was so hopefully we'll maybe be even more proactive at that next year and plan for the increased demand.
The tricky thing with the scaling it is that the interviews happen once a year, so we have this opportunity once a year to test something. So, like, we have these meetings and we have these ideas about, like, right, what can we do differently this time? How can we accommodate more people? And then you think, well, okay, so in theory this is going to work. We'll plan for it, but then until it actually comes around, you don't know if it's going to work or not. So, but then once you've done it, you don't have another chance until the following year to kind of make amends.
No, it's like when we went from Excel bookings, and then I remember you messaged Jamie, like, guys, have you checked out this? Like, I've used it for my other appointments. Why don't we just use this? And it was kind of like, this will either work or it just doesn't. And we don't know until the first person goes click. And And when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Like, it's not like, oh, don't worry, we'll fix it. It's like, guys, I can't log in, I can't access the meeting. What do I do? So
That's
yeah,
a great segue to Rogan there.
Yeah. So moving on to
Well, I just
what
wanted
went
to
wrong?
say just quickly, because the number of places actually reduced this year, didn't it? Which is interesting, and like people that's caused a lot of consternation, stress amongst people, because the number of people wanted. So there's been a lot of conspiracies going around that they're reducing the training numbers because they're planning ahead for computers, which is quite funny.
Nice segue to our sponsor. Shout out to no, we don't have any sponsors.
But that's replaced by a computer then.
But so David Little actually responded.
Shout out to David.
Yeah, he's really good.
Amazing.
Yeah, responded to a lot of the comments on Reddit, which seems to be where people get all of go for their sort of medical conspiracies and
the pits of Reddit.
Yeah. But yeah, sort of mentioned that essentially there are a set number of training numbers across the whole of radiology across the country, and essentially even if there is, so the NHS England have increased the potential number of spaces for ST1, but you still can't take in any more trainees if there aren't people moving out at the other end, because there's an overall maximum number of trainees that radiology training can accommodate in the country. So things like people going less than full time and taking, now I think the average time for people to complete radiology training, even though it's a 5-year training program, it's like 6 years or 6.5 years. So stuff like that influences how many people can come in at the bottom end if people are taking longer to sort of actually move out at the upper end and CCT. So people are really puzzled about the fact that training numbers have actually gone down, even though there's been all of this talk from the RCR about how they've managed to increase training numbers. But I think the overall number of training numbers across the 5 years has increased, but people aren't moving through as quickly. So there's still that bottleneck at the bottom end, which is, problematic. But it's good it was very good for David Little to actually respond to people.
He went out of his way to clarify, because otherwise myths just propagate, like, oh, they're doing this because, the funding has ended, or as Jamie said, like, AI has started and now it's one candidate to one robot type of thing. But it's like, the other thing that was really interesting that kind of made me, when you have those like realizing that, that makes so much sense. It's not an infinite capacity. There is a infrastructural limit to how much this hospital can accommodate. Because there's not, like, for example, both you, like Jamie and Uzi, like you could have 10 regs in a one room watching you.
Jamie doesn't train people anymore. Jamie,
he's fully gone. Forget. Yeah. He trains the robots. He trains, but like no, you could have 10 regs crowding around you, watching you report that abdominal X-ray. But what's the learning value? 0. So there is a limit, and I think maybe for radiology, it's now scraping the ceiling of that limit. Yes, of course, academies were there to try and like increase the capacity, but building an academy takes time, not just in terms of the actual building, but then getting everything set up, getting the trainers in. So it was,
and then they still have to
really,
come out
like,
and go
insightful.
into hospitals after as well. So they still have to be accommodated in hospitals. So certainly when you have lots of trainees in your department, even with the best will, it's difficult to teach them and also get any work done. So I can see how it's an issue. But so as you were saying, talking about stuff not necessarily going well, it reminded us of one of our previous attempts at our anatomy competition, which completely Yeah,
Flashbacks.
Yeah, PTSD. But we are running that again this year. It was a Gluttons for Punishment. It actually we redid it last year and that went well. And so we're going to
That was
use
really
the same.
fun. Really
yeah,
fun.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it this
Same.
year. 27th of July. Sign up now. Sign up here or down here. Where's the link in the description.
Wait, don't make my life harder. Don't make my life harder, Jamie. I don't know how to do these things.
Yeah, 27th of July. 27th of July. And I think the last date for signing up is the 12th of July. So, yeah, space is limited. So anything else to talk about? What's new in Dubai, Jamie?
Well, I mean, it was quite wet earlier in the year.
Yeah.
Very much surprisingly so. I think
left there
just
for the
generally there's
weather
been a lot
and
more rain, but then it kind of culminated in these massive floods.
Flash floods.
Yeah. Because
it's quite funny. You were in, I think you were in the UK when it started, and you were.
Yes.
We were chatting on WhatsApp, and you were slagging off the UK weather, saying it was April and it was a bit cold, and you said you hadn't packed your wardrobe for that. And then meanwhile in Dubai, it was basically Atlantis underwater.
The apocalypse.
So,
yeah.
So that's quite poetic.
It was really bad. There's still lots of areas of standing water because there's just
really
not much in the way of drainage. So there's areas, and I was chatting to a guy who'd read an article about how these areas now could just become new ecosystems. It was these areas where there's just flooding that hasn't subsided at all. There'll just be lakes there now that will attract lake-associated wildlife, and that's how it'll be. Just new green, wet areas in the desert. Yeah.
New lakefront property springing up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
How much is your flat gone up by, Jamie? What's
No.
Swimming pool in the backyard now.
There was also the Dubai Congress, which was a few weeks ago, and that was quite interesting. You got essentially kicked out of a conference.
Yeah, kicked off.
Basically,
kicked off.
Which is
it was. It was a very. I have to be so careful. It was a very.
He's squirming. He's squirming so badly.
It was a very unexpected scenario. Put it that way. You don't go along to a conference kind of looking forward to seeing people that you've worked with previously or colleagues that in other institutions in the country. You don't expect to go to a conference and kind of be told that you can't talk to those people. And you don't expect to be kind of given an ultimatum on the second day of a 3-day conference that you can attend the conference and see the lectures, but you can't talk to anyone.
Shouldn't have been selling there, should you?
You don't expect to have your conversations with friends being supervised.
Yeah. So what actually happened?
Very, very bizarre. So basically, on the first day of the conference, I was accused of doing business. And
this is so Dubai.
I was there. So I was there as a delegate. I was wearing my own clothes. I wasn't head to toe in merch. I wasn't handing out flyers or business cards or anything. I was having conversations with people that I knew already. I wasn't trying to get business, as it was. But yeah, that was the kind of the first warning shot. Was you're here doing business. The company that you work for haven't paid for sponsorship. Therefore, our sponsors are at a disadvantage because you're here doing business. Which kind of came as a bit of a surprise. I kind of put my point across that I wasn't really doing anything wrong. And if you pay for sponsorship, then you have the benefits of the stand. You're on the conference website. You're on all the conference material. Your logo is everywhere. You're able to hand out various bits of merch, whatever it might be. So me being there, as a delegate who happens to work for a rival company, it doesn't mean that I'm kind of getting sponsorship privileges through the back door, as it were. But yeah, the accusations kind of kept coming in. Having conversations
So
with,
you're just,
with the guy that I trained with, and then this guy like interrupted us and accused him of doing business. So it was this really bizarre situation where like basically I was someone who you could not be seen with.
Oh my god!
Because then the organisers will be in on you. So yeah, then it just kind of came to a head then on the second day of the conference, when I was kind of escorted to the reception area, and then I was told
men in suits,
not far off, yeah.
Oh
my god!
Yeah. So and then I was told, you can't do, but you can't be here doing business. Our sponsors are very unhappy that you're here doing business. You can't be here doing business. But you're a delegate, you're a radiologist, so you can attend the conferences. So yeah, I was fully censored.
So you just couldn't say anything.
Yeah, I was
freedom
fully
of speech in
censored.
Dubai.
I was like,
Shock.
I can't even believe that this is happening.
So short segue to our sponsors, RCR Congress 2025.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that it's a very interesting precedent, and I wonder if it's something that the college would have a position on, really. As someone who works for a company, are you able to attend a conference without your company sponsoring the conference? I think that this is the precedent that it sets, isn't it? So effectively, what by the RCR not defending me at all, despite raising it with them, what they're effectively saying is, okay, so if your company aren't sponsoring the event, then you can't attend the event, and if you do attend the event, then you can't talk to anyone because you're infringing on the privileges of the sponsors. So a sponsorship contract really that good? Are they that like overreaching that they have kind of exclusivity over every conversation that happens within the conference? I'd be very surprised if that's the case, but who knows? So yeah, I thought
it'd be interesting to did you go as in your capacity? I presume as a radiologist, right?
Yeah,
like that's what it said on your badge. And then it should have no issue. Like you went there as someone trying to attend and the lectures and stuff, the conference material. But yeah, it's just never.
And networking always happens. There. Like that's the whole point, isn't it? Of getting everyone together. Like it's inevitable that there'll be networking.
Wish I was a fly on the wall watching you get escorted out.
Yeah. I suppose it's a small. Was it a small conference? Is it relatively small?
Yeah, I'd say it's small.
Yeah. And certainly the space you're in is quite small and seems hyper competitive just from looking from the outside in. And
not from my end.
There's no competition.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Maybe you need to change your mindset, get your elbows out a bit more, because obviously the other side.
I don't need that cortisol in my life.
RadCast is enough. RadCast is enough.
True.
Yeah,
I'm away from the stress.
I'm not interested in any of that. I'm not interested in
rise above it.
In all of this, what I would consider to be frankly ridiculous behaviour and ridiculous politics.
Type A suits mentality.
I think that the position of the college was like, I was very disappointed in that. I'll be completely honest.
Wow.
It really did blow my mind that the college were kind of so agreeable with what was going on. There was no kind of there wasn't even any consideration of like, okay, well, maybe this is kind of a mountain out of a molehill. It was like, no, it's kind of guilty because someone's made the accusation. So yeah, very, very, very difficult situation. I'm not sure what will happen next year. Like, I want the CPD points. I want to attend the conference. It's a local conference to me. It's an opportunity to meet people who I know from the UK who I haven't seen for a while.
I'm
but
going to
am I going to be gagged
sure.
again? Who knows?
Ooh, that's an interesting. Wow, are you even allowed to attend next year?
Go in disguise.
Yeah, put on those cameras. He's like, surprise! It was me.
Yeah, who knows? Funny goings on there. Yeah, I've not heard of that happening at a conference, so yeah, it's quite funny.
Yeah.
So we're kicking off at RCR Congress. We didn't go, Uzi. Definitely need to go next year.
Yeah, definitely go next year.
For the bants.
See if you can get kicked out as
well. Definitely me. It'll definitely be me somehow. Just
see if you're allowed in the country, let alone.
What? Don't put that on video. Don't start making these accusations. Okay,
right.
So
on that
bombshell. Yeah, so I think we'll leave that there. 17th recording done.
Yeah.
First RadCast rambles done. Hopefully one of many. But first, let me try and edit this. Obviously, Jamie's given me already a headache with all this sign up here, sign up there, for all this kind of stuff. But yeah, we'll let you guys know when the next one is out. But because this is our first YouTube video, of course, I have to do the whole classic YouTube spiel of please like, subscribe, leave a comment if you want to leave us your prayers. That's also very valuable to us. Notification bell on. I don't know what it does, but apparently I've been told to say it. And yes, we will see you on the next one. So thank you very much for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.
See you later.